हेलो ये तो आज हम लोग पढ़ेंगे चैप्टर थर्ड इकोनॉमिक डेवलपमेंट एंड प्लानिंग अ मिक्स इकोनॉमिक मॉडल सोशलिज्म आफ्टर इंडिपेंडेंस अपार्ट फ्रॉम द extreme poverty illiteracy are ruined agriculture and industry the structural distortion created by the colonialism in the India economy and the society made the future transition to self-sustainable growth much more difficult. Ensuring well-being and economic development were the important challenge for the Indian leadership, and to pursue these goals, they had two models of economic development: the liberal capitalist model followed in the USA and the Europe, another was the socialist model followed by USSR. During the debate model of the economic development, there was a broad consensus that development of India should involve economic growth and social as well as economic justice. Hence, very few people supported the American style of capitalist development. There was many who got impressed by the Soviet model of development. India abandoned the colonial economic model that was focused on the commercial gain only. In the democratic polity, post-independence, poverty elevation, and the social economic redistribution became the primary responsibility of the government. Therefore, India adopted the mixed model of economic development, which was feature of both the capitalist and the socialist model. Factors that generated hopes for the survival of Indian economy after centuries of colonial subjugation included there was a mature indigenous enterprises class, Virlas, Tatas, Singhanias, Dalmia, Jains, and that developed an independent economic base, which was an asset for the post-independence plan development. Wider socialist consensus on the nature and path of the development. Everyone from the staunch Gandhian to the socialist, the capital as well as the communist more or less agreed on following agenda: a multi-pronged strategy of economic development based on self-restraint, b rapid industrialization based on the import substitution including capital good industry, c prevention of the imperialist on foreign capital, b land reforms involving tendency reforms, E. Abortion of the Jamindari system. F. Introducing of cooperative, especially of the services cooperative like marketing, credit, etc. Why India completely rejected the capitalist style of modernization. During that era, it was common for the people to refer West as a standard for measuring development. Meant become more and more modern was like industrialized country of the West. India reject such model because the majority of the people were illiterate and breakdown of the traditional social structure at that modernization required was not feasible in India. Modernization was also associated with the idea of the growth, material progress, and scientific rationality, but due to the lack of resources and education right away, it was not possible in India, which was a regional and the caste weight stratified society. Indian Parliament in December 1954 accepted the socialist pattern of society as object of the social economic policy. In fact, the model project was a mixed economy where the public and the private sector were not only to coexist with but were to be complementary to each other, and the private sector was to be encountered to growth with much freedom as possible within the broad objective of the national plan. B. Planning and its impact. There was a consensus on one point that government should plan for the development, not for the private sector. In fact, the idea of planning as a process of rebuilding economy and a good of public support in 1940s and 1950s all over in the world. The experience of the Great Depression in Europe, the interwar reconstruction of Japan and Germany, most of the spectacular economic growth against the heavy odd in the Soviet Union in 1930s and 1940s contributed to the consensus. Generally, it is assumed that the big businesses enterprises are the avenge to the idea of planning. Contrary to this, a section of big industrialists came together in 1944 and drafted a joint proposal for setting up the planned economy in the country. It was called the Bombay Plan. After the independence, the Planning Commission was set up in March 1950s by the simple resolution of the Government of India. It has a advisory role in recommendation become effective only when the Union Cabinet approves these. The scope of the resolution by the Planning Commission was formed. First, every individual should have the right to an adequate means of livelihood. Second, material resource of community, their ownership and control should serve the common good. Third, economic system should be operate in a such a way that use of the means of production and wealth should not result in the well-being of the particular community and to be demanded to the society. As in the term of USSR, United Soviet Socialist Republic, the Planning Commission of the India opted for 5 year plans. It was argued that 5 year plans had an advantage of permitting the government to focus on the larger picture and make the long-term intervention in the economy. This entailed preparing a detailed plan for the all economic and the expenditure for the next 5 years. Accordingly, the budget of the central and the all state government were divided into parts. Non-planned budget, this is spent on the routine item on the yearly basis. Planned budget, this is the spent on the 5 year basis as per the priorities fixed by the plan. The first 5 year plans 1951 to 1956. The draft of the first 5 year plans and the actual plan overcome sorry document was released in December 1951. People from all walk of the life, academics, journalists, government and private sector employees, industrialists, farmers, politicians, etc. discussed and debated the document extensively. Based on the Harold Domort's model, the first 5 year plan 1951 to 1956 sought the get democracy economy out of the vicious cycle of poverty. The prominent young economist K. N. Raj that India should hasten slowly for the first 2 decades as the first at the first rate of the development my endurance democracy. The first 5 year plans addressing mainly the agrarian sector, including investment in dam and irrigation. Due to the bitter partition, agriculture sector was hit the hardest and the needed urgent attention. Huge allocation were made for the modern temple of India like Bhakar Nagal Dam. The first 5 year plan also focused on the land reforms to the country's development. One of the basic aim of the planners was to raise the level of national income. Basis level of the spending was very low in 1950s. Hand planning planners sought to push saving up due to the efforts of the planners. Saving did rise up and that rise continued till the third 5 year plan, but the later it declined sharply. Second 5 year plan 1956 to 1961. The second 5 year plan, the second plan is stressed on the heavy industries and it was drafted by a team of economists and the planners under the strong leadership of the PC Mahal Novis. Contrary to the patient preached in the first plan, second plan aspired to bring about quick structural transformation by the making changes in all possible direction. In 1955, the Congress Party passed a resolution in Awadhi near the Madras before finalization of the draft of the second plan and declared the goal of the socialist pattern of the society. This was visible in the second plan document. The government imposed sustainable tariffs on the import and to protect domestic industries, which help them to grow. Which help to grow them. Saving and investment were going bulk of this industry like electricity, railway, steels, machineries and communications were to be developed in the public sector. The push for the industrialization marked a turning point in the Indian development. Third 5 year plan 1961 to 1966. Underlying assumption for the third plan was that the Indian economy had entered a take-off stage. Thus, it aimed at making India self-reliant and self-generating economy. The chief priority of this plan was agriculture, both to enhance food security and support the export and the industry. However, the plan was an abject failure in the achieving in its target, primarily because of the extraneous factors such as the wars and the China wars with China 1962 and Pakistan 1965, as well as served drought in the year of 1965 to 1966. These circumstances lead to the declaration of Plan's holiday. Achievement of the Plan's forms 1947 to 1965, the stepping up the rate of the growth required as a sustainable increase in the investment rate. An important achievement in the period was the rise in the saving on investment rate. On the agrarian front, the comprehensive land reforms measures intended soon after independence, the setting of the massive network of the agriculture extensive and the community developed at the village level, the large infrastructure investment in the irrigation power and the agricultural researches created favorable conditions which lead to the growth of agriculture output during 1949 to 65 at 3% per annum. The industries during first three plans grew more rapidly than agriculture. The industrial growth was based on the rapid import substitution of the both consumers good and capital good and the intermediate goods. So this helped in India to reducing India's total dependence on the advanced countries for the basic goods and capitals equipment. Yeah, fourth, apart from the industries and agriculture, the early planner give the utmost priority of to the development of the social infrastructure, including education and the health areas greatly neglected in the order to colonial past. Fifth, Nehru Temple of the modern India consists on not only the steel and power irrigated dams etc., but included institutional higher learning particles in the scientific field during first 5 year plans. High powered national laboratories and institute was set up by the Council of Scientific and Industry Research for the conducting fundamental and applied researches in each of the following area: physics, chemistry, fuel, gases, and the ceramics, food, technology, drugs, electrochemistry, roads, leather, and buildings. In 1948, the Atomic Energy Commission was set up by the line foundation of the credible advance. India was to make in the sphere of the nuclear science and the related areas. India scientists and technology manpower increased more than 12 times from 119,000 to 2.32 2.32 millions. Key controversies regarding 5 year plans. The strategy to develop followed in these plans raised several important questions. Agriculture versus industry. Agriculture versus industry. Many thought that the second plan lacked an agrarian strategy for development, and the stress on the industries caused agriculture and the rural India to suffer badly. Veteran Gandhian economy like J.C. Kumarappa proposed an alternative blueprint that put greater emphasis on the rural industrialization. Thus, the stress on the rapid industrialization require import of the technology for which India has to spend precious foreign exchange to buy the from the global market. It was an industry that attached more investment than agriculture, even as the possibility of the food shortages loomed largely. Second, public versus private sector. The state controlled by the heavy industries provided industrial infrastructure, regulated trade, and made some crucial intervention in the agriculture. Critics agreed with the planners, refused to provide the private sector with the enough space and the stimulus to grow. The enlarged public sector produced powerful, vast interest that created enough hurdle for the private capital by initializing system of the license and the permit of investment with the restriction on the import of the good production of such goods in a domestic market with a little or no competition. In addition to incentive to improve the quality of the production, the state control more things than the require, which lead to inefficiency and corruption. See, green revolution in the India is known as to reduce the dependency of India on the foreign aids for the supply of the food grains during the agricultural crisis like drought, flood, etc., and which led to make India self-dependent and the self-sustainable nation in terms of the food grains availability prevailing condition before the introduction of the green revolution. The focus of the Indian agriculture was only on institutional reforms, not on the technological base for agriculture. Despite very credible growth of the agriculture output during 1949 to 1965, 3% per annum, 3% per annum, India has been facing food shortages since the mid 1950s. The massive jump in the population growth rate after independence, steady rise in the capital income, huge outlay toward the planned industrialization put long-term pressure on Indian agriculture, which resulted in massive demand to meet food shortage. India was faced to import food in the greater amount due to war, one with the China and another with the Pakistan 1965, and the successive drought in year 1965 to 1966 lead to fall agriculture output massively. Food prices shot up. Arm twisting policies of United States due to the India stand to Vietnam, India's denial of accepting on economic packages for the long term, long India dependent on the United States for the food import under the PL 480 scheme due to the grim scenario of the mid 1960s economic and the self-reliance and food self-sufficiency become a top priority objective of the Indian leadership initiative prior to the Green Revolution to boost agriculture. There was a wrong perception prevailed during the Nehru's era that he had neglected the agriculture sector and instead focusing too much on the rapid industrialization. But contrary this perception, Nehru had placed great importance to create a physical and the scientific infrastructure essential for the Indian agriculture. There was a massive large-scale irrigation and the power project like Bhakar Nagal and various agriculture universities and research and laboratories, fertilizers plant and were set up. Introduction of the Green Revolution in India. Green Revolution took place in the three different phases in the various regions of the country at the different point of time. First phase of the Green Revolution, the this happened from the 1962 to 1965 to 1970 to 1973 with the sharp increase in yield in the wheat in the northwestern region, which included Punjab, Haryana, and the western Uttar Pradesh. Second phase of the Green Revolution, this happened from 1917 to 1973 to 1918 to 1983 with the extensive of HYB high yield variety seeds technology from wheat to the rice. This time the technology spread in the Uttar Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, particularly coastal areas, part of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, and soon region of like Maharashtra, Gujarat, improved their production to the third phase of the from 1980 to 1983 to 1992 to 1995 showed a very significant encouraging result. At the time, Green Revolution have spread to the low growth areas like Odisha, West Bengal, Madhya Pradesh, and Rajasthan. During the last phase, Southern India, sorry, southern region referred at the higher rate of the growth than the northern region. By the end of this phase, the coefficient of the variation of the output growth level and the yield per hectare level between the various states dropped down the sustainably compared to the earlier decades. By the end of that last phase, there was a considerable reduction in the regional inequality by the increase in the prosperity in the rural India. Significant government initiative during the Green Revolution period. Government investment in the agriculture rose significantly. Institutional finance in the agriculture sector doubled from the 1968 to 1973. The Agriculture Prices Commission was set up in the 1965, and the effort was made to assure the farmers a sustainable recommendative recommendative prices. Public investment institution credit remunerative prices and the availability of the new technology at low prices raised the profitability of the private investment by the farmers. The result of the government initiative was the rate of the increase in the gross irrigated area rose from the 1 million hectare per annum in the pre-green revolution or to about 2.5 million hectare per annum during 1970s. Positive impact of the green revolution throughout the Throughout the three phases of the Green Revolution, food grain production rose significantly by 1980s, not by only for was India self-sufficient in the food with a buffer food stock of over 13 million tons, but also it exported food to pay back its earlier loan and to loan deficit country. The critical impact of the Green Revolution was it maintained the agriculture growth rate, the liberation. Plus it generated a rapid increase in the marketable surplus of the food grains, the liberation from the dependence on PL 488 to the other import was a major step in the in 488 a step in the direction of the self-reliant independence development from India. The new green revolution technology proved not only the scale neutral but also evolved and per unit of the land compared to the large farmers. Small farmers become the relatively more visible and did not shell out their land to land holdings. Farmers in distress. This green revolution not only generated employment in the agriculture but also non-agriculture, rural, and the semi-urban unemployment through the development of the agro industry, transport industry, and the agriculturally allied sectors. Industries in income of the farmers lead to the demand for the factory-produced consumer durable like the radios, watches, TV, sewing machines, etc. The surplus stock of the grain food helped the government to launch employment generative poverty alleviation programs in the backward areas. In conclusion, the Green Revolution had a major impact on the rural poverty and level of the decline sharply through the availability, and it resulted in decline in relative prices of the food, generating employment in the agriculture sectors and the agriculturally allied areas like rise in wage etc. Negative impact of the Green Revolution, a huge disparity and the polarization between the classes and the region resulted in favor condition of the left-wing organization to the organize the poor peasant to follow extreme path seed of the left wings extreme for the right. The Green Revolution also resulted in the rise of the middle peasant sections. These middle peasant were the medium size holding hugely beneficial from the changes and the later emerged as a politically influence in the many part of the country. The negative environment impact of the excessive use of the chemical fertilizers and pesticide as well as plenty queuing of the growth rate in the area like Punjab, excessive withdrawal of the groundwater for irrigation in many areas without adequate rechargeable of the subsoil aquifer in the environmental unsustainable peasant and the sharecroppers who did not have been secure a tenure with perhaps only the losers, the oppressed, the farming community in growth revolution, the belt. Many political party provided subsidies the total free electricity which lead to the misuse of it adversely affected the overall health of the Indian economy. The land reform and the cooperatives transformed the agriculture sector and the rural economy was seen as an important goal, and this consists land reforms were considered important all the time of independence. The ownership of the land was highly concentrated. Landlords were used to extract maximum rental from the tenant. Tenants were the left with no money after paying the rental, and thus made no effort to develop agriculture. They had to neither resource and nor knowledge. Land was not organized, and thus number of the small fragment accessed. Often cultivators were shipped from one farm to another by the landlord on their whim and fancies. Cultivator often had to supplement for their farm's income by the working as hired laborers like their poorer landless counterparts. Objective of the land reforms: abolition of intermediaries. It was done so that the ownership of the land can be clearly identify with the measurement and the operation of the land with the owner himself. Such operate and manage the land shielding to meet the land hunger of the working cultivation, to reduce disparity in agriculture income in the ownership and the use of the land, to increase the employment opportunity in the rural sectors, consolidating of the holding for the more efficient management. Encouragement of the cooperatives joint farming to overcome the difficulty presented by the tiny holdings, larger financial resources could be invested and the employment opportunities increased. Settlement and regulation of the tendency to confirm the right of the occupancy of the tenant, secure their position to tenant land and also rent on the leased land. Opposition to the land reforms, many argued that the ceiling and the tendency legislation would in effect infringe upon the constitutional guarantee. It was said that the agriculture output of the nations would be adversely affected because the small farming will be inefficient as they would not be able to afford the cost of the mechanization. It was argued that the land was a property and imposition of the capital levy in term of the ceiling of the land holding would be an injustice when similar measures were not simultaneously adopted in the other sector. Since land reforms were a state subject, planning commission fought hard to convince the states about the data in 1954, which was made available to the planners in 1960. As the planner had already formulated the policy, the magnitude of the problem involving the in structural reorganization could not be realized on time. Implementation of the reform, abolition of the intermediaries, while the aim to abolish intermediaries between the tillers and the state in the actual practices, the legislative enactment educated intermediaries with the zamindars and has result in the left a class of rent receivers and the absentee landlord under the railway wide untouched. The intermediaries were the quite successful in getting huge comprehension for the abolition. It may be mentioned that communist national abolition it was without any compensation. Land ceiling. There are some cases where the assessment of the Benami basis has been made. Implementation of the reforms at the slow pace in fact failed the program. This is because the landlords transfer land to their relatives, friend, etc., thereby the coming up the ceiling on the paper. Rise in agriculture productivity, rising land values and higher income and the cultivated educative to the economic strengthening of the landlord. Sustainable landlord who great authority in the rural India and are bitterly opposed to the ceiling on the agriculture holding. They are able to have their way because no serious effort has been made to organize the landless and the landed poor and listed their support in favor of the reform. The land ceiling could not yield enough land to fulfill the land requirement of the vast population of the tenant. The law provided a number of the exemption. For the instance, for the one of the sugarcane farms orchard, a large chunk of the land which was recovered remain undistributed and uncultivated. In the other words, where there are no return from the land and the government has already compensated those for whom it has been educated. Such land can be developed with the little investment and effort. Legislation slowed the implementation of the reforms. Consolidation of the holdings in pursuance of this, mainly state had enacted a legislation, but not much progress could be made except in the state of UP, Haryana, and Punjab. In other words, in other state, work was continued for some year and lost momentum. Thereafter, farmers are emotionally attached to their ancestors' land and thereby they are not willing to take advantage of the scheme of the consolidating of the holding. Those farmers who were own the good quality of land do not favor the scheme in fear of getting inferior and poor quality land after the consolidation of the holding of cumbersome process. Government officials who implemented the scheme are generally slow and often corrupted. In general, the scheme did not receive the desired support and the corporation from the farmers. The scheme was paved way for the litigations and the court cases, many of which are pending in the different courts for a long time. The weighties, the scenery atmosphere of the rural areas under the existing law of the inheritance, the field continued to be smaller and the fragment. fragmented in every consolidation. About 5 to 10% of the village land is taken out of the providing houses sites to the vehicle section of the society approaches road, chalk roads and the village utility services. Hence it the process of the, is repeated 3 or 4 times a seasonal portion of the agriculture land would get out of the agriculture. The cost of consolidating is released from the farmers, which has adverse effect on their resources and economy. It has observed that the small farmers are generally allotted inferior quality and land, and due to lack of money power, they are neither able to please the official nor get justice in the court. The cooperative, the prominent leader of the Indian fighter freedom struggle, ranging from the Mahatma Gandhi to Nehru, as well as socialist communists, viewed cooperatization as the important element in the improving agriculture as well as the benefit of the poor. Post-independent also corporatization was seen as an important part of the agenda for institutional change in agriculture. The Congress Agrarian Reforms Committee, also known as Kurumpara Committee, recommended in 1949 the state to be empowered to enforce varying degree of the cooperative for the different types of farming. First plan adopted the judicial approach in the recommending that the small and the medium farms should be encouraged and assisted to group themselves into cooperative farming societies. It was accepted that village panchayat motivated party workers and trained workers to the community development program launched in 1952 would be helpful in the context. The second plan found of optimistic route by emphasizing the need of the taking essential step laying foundation for the development of cooperative farming with the aim to bring the sustainable proportion of the agricultural land under the cooperative farmers over a period of 10 years. The Congress party in their 1959 Nagpur session passed a national resolution which visualized as a agrarian pattern based on the joint cooperative farming. In the future, it is specified that such a pattern was achieved within the 3 years. However, leaders like C. Rajgopalachari, N. G. Ranga, and Charan Singh opposed the such move. Thus, Prime Minister Nehru assured the Parliament in the February 1959 to not using the coherence to introduce a cooperative function. Furthermore, as the idea of the cooperative farming was sought to be promoted by citing China's success in improving agriculture output through the corporation, Chinese aggregation in Tibet 1959, and later encroachment inside Indian water made the any base of the Chinese model suspect. In light of the such factors and the India of the cooperative farming received a setback on the Congress put forward the idea of setting up the services cooperatives all over the world. The third plans reflected change in the positive regarding cooperative farming as the advantage modest target of the made contingent on general agriculture efforts through the community development and development as well as the progress of the cooperative and the credit market deliberation etc. Success of the cooperative, the milk corporation on the sorry success of the corporation, the milk corporation and the organization. Most successful experiment in the cooperative in India is found in the milk cooperative sector. The experiment that is situated in Kaira, also called Kheda district of the Gujarat, eventually led to the white revolution that is spread all over the India. Peasant of the Khera Gujarat hall which supplied the milk to Bombay felt cheated by the milk traders, and then they met the Sardar Patel who was from the same region of residents. Their governance at the initial of the Patels and Manaji Desai, the farmers organized themselves into the cooperative union, persecute the Bombay government with a milk strike to the buy milk directly from the union. These farmers registered themselves as for Anant in Anand, Gujarat in December 1946. Guardian freedom fighters Tri Bhuvandas K. Patel convinced the farmers to form the cooperative. Later become the chairman and remained so for 25 years. Dr. Varghese Kurien was the CEO of a union from the 1950s to 1973. Meanwhile, in 1955, the union The union chose Amul as a name for the range of the product which completed with the MNC's companies of dairy product, the Galio and Nextel, the Anand Platon of the Kera operation. Cooperatives united gradually spread it to the district in Gujarat 1974. The Gujarat operation Milk Marketing Freedom Ltd. Anand was formed was an apex organization of the union in the district to took the after marketing after according to the estimates due to activities of the cooperatives 48% of the income of the rural household came from the dairying the Kaira cooperative services such as movement of spread of the rest of the country inevitable in the 1964 then the Prime Minister Sastri wrote to all the chief minister of the country to set up an cooperative dairies on the Anand pattern to perform the task on NDDB National Dairy Development Board for the was created in 1965. Mr. Verghese Kurain was at a helm as the honorary chairman. Beginning of the operation food drowning heavy from the Kaira union of the personal expertise and much more. The NDDB's launch operative led a program reciprocate the Anand pattern in the milk shade region, producing milk that may be suffered to the area of the demand. Operation Flood organized cooperative of the more milk produced with the national wide milk grid with the purpose of the increasing milk production, bringing the produce and the consumer close to elimination middleman and assuring the producer a regular income throughout the year. It was not just a dairy programming but a part to development generating employees income of the rural household and the evaluation poverty by 1995 and were 69,875 village dairy cooperative spread over 117 milk shed all over the country with the total membership 8.9 million farmer. Impact of the operation flood. The obvious impact of the operation flood was the considered increasing in the um, milk supply and the consequence increase in the economic and to the producers, particularly the poor. It was estimated that the 60% of the beneficiaries were the marginal or the small farmers and landlords laborers. Thus milk cooperatives proved to be significant anti-poverty measures. The chief beneficiary of the scheme was the landlocked people from the SC and ST communities are the derived section of the other community operations flood and the accompanying dairy expansion but has been instrumental in the establishment of the indigenous dairy equipment manufacturing industry and impressive body of the industrial expertise that include the animal nutrition, animal health, artificial insemination, management of the information system MIS, daily engineering, food engineering, or organization, food and instrumental empowerment of the women, orchard flood with the help of NGOs like Seva help in the establishing about 6,000 women dairies cooperatives. Socialist Operation Flood had been oversplit or effect on the cooperative for the fruit vegetable producers while seed cultivators small salt makers and tree growers done excellently well which were initially by NDDB. Limitation of the corporatism. Daniel Tomior the noted the economist during the observation the cooperative between the December 1958 to May 1959 found many weaknesses in the cooperative model movement. He observed two type of cooperative movement. He observes two types of cooperation in the joint farming. On one which the farmers and the landlord farmers they formed such cooperative to avoid land reforms and the access initiative offered by the state. There was a broad kind of the cooperatives where a big where with the farmers enrolled their laborers and the acts threatened or member the other second type of the cooperative are states sponsored cooperative loans where uncultivated land of the government was set up made by the Indian government and the underpinned group of these cooperative didn't like live with to the other expectations in the term of the beneficial of sides overall the services cooperatives land later later barriers than the farming cooperatives relative businesses there were the mainly shortcuts in the services cooperatives reinformed they casted based on the hierarchical structure leader of the such cooperatives monthly drawn from the traders money from the lending community. The furthermore, in the case of credit cooperatives, there was a viral exclusion of the internet in the securing credit and the found National Commission for the Agriculture in 1971. Credit cooperatives suffered from the major drawback of the failure of the repayment of the loans, which lead by the large percentage of the over dues. Contrary to the common perception, rich and the landowning community were larger defaulters than the poor and small farmers. Thus, over the year, instead of promoting pupils' participation, the cooperative movement become the staff overstaffed the government official and became insufficient. And our chapter 3 is completed now. I hope this you just understand the chapter very well.